calling the regular meeting of the Oregon City Urban Renewal Commission for December 7th, 2011. May I have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Neely?
Here.
Commissioner Roth?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Yates? Commissioner Peterson? Commissioner Shaw?
Here.
Commissioner Mum? Commissioner Edgar?
Here.
And Chair Walters.
Here. Do we have any citizen comments this evening that are not related to agenda items? Yes, we have a citizen comment for Damon Mabee.
Get out of here before midnight. We learn from the best. Good evening. For the record, my name is Damon Mabee, Oregon City resident. I just wanted to comment kind of briefly about, I guess, a cautionary tale. We had the recall last night, and recall was successful. And a lot of people on one side or the other can holler foul about, you know, this was said or that was said. But the fact of the matter is the question was put before the people, and the people voted. The cautionary tale part comes with the idea that we should put everything in front of the voters, including urban renewal issues. Because all it takes is the right buzzword and things can, you know, fail. I mean, all you have to do is yell traffic, taxes, and anything involved with money is going to go down. The buzzword for the recall was Cabela's. There isn't always going to be a positive buzzword for something, and it may be that the entire commission supports, you know, whatever is being put down on the ballot. But if the wrong, you know, buzzwords get thrown out there, it can crash and burn without any real effort being put out there. And you know, the movement to you know, put major plans that are very complex out for you know, the ordinary citizen to vote on. This was a pretty straightforward issue. And some of them are not very straightforward. Like I said, most urban renewal plans aren't. You know, some people point to, well, Beaverton did such a great job and they got a complete buy-in on that after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of effort. And all it takes is a city commission, a couple of votes to change, you know, people to change on the city commission, and that all that effort can be just thrown out and be basically considered wasted money. So, you know, the objective of the Urban Renewal Commission should be to act appropriately and decisively, and based on what is happening today, and to wait for, you know, months for an election result, or to spend the thousands of dollars to have a timely election, can be detrimental to you know, the project. So I urge you to take the cautionary tale of last night to heart and realize that all it takes is one or two people with the right buzzwords to make things either happen or not happen. And you won't always have a positive buzzword, but there's always the two negative buzzwords, traffic and taxes. So thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3, adoption of the agenda. Any objections? Okay. Item 4, general business. 4A, discussion of approved storefront grant for 702 Main Street.
All right. Evening. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So back in August of 2011, a proposal for a storefront improvement grant at 702 Main was submitted and approved by the Urban Renewal Commission. The approval was a grant authorizing $31,500, which would be matched by the applicant owner, to do exterior improvements, including the removal and replacement of damaged masonry, the addition of terracotta moldings and cement plaster, new doors and windows, and accent lighting at the property. At this time, the grant will not cover any cost of the proposed steel awning. Since then, the applicant has been moving forward with a land use application for the exterior improvements that are proposed at 702 Main. The Community Development Department currently has in a minor site plan and design review land use application for the improvements to the site. So the request was made to bring this proposal back for an additional review. Because of the time associated with a land use application in terms of we need to issue a decision and how long the public comment period is open, and we don't have a history of how we bring these back for re-review, we put it on the agenda, realizing that we weren't going to meet again until January, at which time the public comment period is most likely over. So I think there's a couple things we need to work through tonight. One, do we want to review this again? And two, if we do, we need to figure out how that's going to work with the land use, because you really have two different things going on right here. You've got a land use application for development, for improvements, and then you also have your storefront grant program, which is somewhat of a separate issue. Tonight we have Mr. Miller and his representatives here to try and answer any questions should we get to that point. We also have staff here who's working on the land use application. So this is a little bit unique. So the request came from Commissioner Edgar. Might be good to kind of hear what the concerns are and work from there.
Well, thank you. What was really, we had originally talked about the idea that we would authorize extra money to architecturally, to the architects to bring back plans that would make the building be more historically correct. As things were going on, and I'm looking at it as the chair of the CIC Land Use Committee, and wanting to sign off on this, and then I didn't see what was happening, in a sense, what was the full circle of where this was going. Were we going to be restoring the columns or not? What was going to be the kind of the end look? We all at this up here had looked at it with a question saying we would like it to be as appropriate as we can, being historically correct as possible, because of the importance of the building. It's how many people see it, its location. So the idea was to say, wow, where is it? What we authorize money, what are we getting? Is something changing it? And that was the big question, because it wasn't part of what I could see in the transmittal that came to me.
I guess where I
I made the motion, actually, so I'm going to say what that motion was intended to do. That motion was intended for what they put forward to go forward, with the exception of the awning support. They had invested already some money, and I put forward the proportion, the $2,000, which they may choose to use or may not choose to use for the additional architectural work. There was nothing in that motion that said that the commitment of the money that we made as our part, we had reduced the money because we didn't want to be involved in the awnings. There was nothing in my motion that tied the $2,000 to the other part.
I understand that. It's really kind of coming back and saying, are we going to get the most historically correct building out of it, and what is this final? Are we going to get columns?
I guess where the difficult part is going to be is that if you look at the application for the for the storefront grant versus the land use application, it appears to be very, very similar, if not exact, with the exception of the awning, to what was being proposed. So that's where we struggle a little bit on what we're going to try and do here.
Commissioner Smith.
Okay, so is the intention to use some of the is the intention to use the $2,000 for plans to bring the columns back, or has that been scrapped?
How about we bring the applicant up and we can ask them
Yeah,
directly?
Thank you. Thank you for coming back this evening. If you would introduce yourselves for the record. And
I'm Brian
Appreciate
Emmerich
having you here
with
today.
Emmerich Architects, and we are assisting with the restoration of the Bank of Commerce for Gary Miller, who's the owner.
Gary Miller, one of the owners of the Bank of Commerce building.
And we're passing out a handout right now. We have a board. I don't know if you have an easel up. Here we go. I'm going to wait till you guys get that so you can see what we're looking at, since it's kind of visual. While that's being passed around, there's two handouts. One is the visual showing the proposed restoration work and some historic photos of what was actually there. The second handout is a memorandum that we did. We did do some work on studying what it would take to replace the original columns. And what you can see when you look at the historic photo is there were two large terracotta Ionic columns that flanked the original entry to the building. Those were torn out, unfortunately, when they did the mid-century modern kind of redo of the building. And they were non-structural, so to put those columns back, we studied the problem. And probably the most reasonable way to do that would be with glass fiber reinforced concrete. It looks fairly similar to terracotta. It's got better durability, actually. And it's significantly less than doing terracotta, but even doing glass fiber reinforced concrete, the cost just to make those elements is in the neighborhood of about $65,000. So it far exceeds, what the budget was laid out. But it's something they would like to do, I think, in the future. I don't know that it's part of this project now. So we did study that issue, though, and look into what that takes. And nothing that we're proposing right now precludes being able to do that later. Essentially, the problem we've got is that the entire base zone of the building was overlaid with concrete and tile, and many of the sections were cast up right onto the brick itself. So just this weekend, they finally finished the preliminary demolition of that front zone, and a lot of the bricks actually damaged in there. So, it's going to be awfully hard to, we'd like to take it back as close as we can, obviously, but it's going to be awfully hard to be able to do that in terms of a total restoration of the original brick down there, looking at what we have now, partly because trying to match the brick is very difficult, and just the level of damage that's occurred there. So we have talked with SHPO, and who represents National Parks, and the proposal we're showing does meet their approval because that area was already heavily damaged. So what we're trying to do is bring it back to the most historically appropriate as we can, given the circumstances of the budget. So.
Okay, so, but not with the columns right now. So the plan right now is what? The plan right now is to fix the bottom just with the grant that we've already approved, and in as close a way as we can. And then the awning, is it a cloth awning as opposed to the awning that was presented to us last time, or so that it's temporary essentially for the case that in the future if the columns come, they come?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, Commissioner Neely basically stated what my memory was, which was that the $31,000 that we awarded was to continue the restoration for the bottom part, as long as the money wasn't used for the awning, which it seems that's still the case, and doesn't preclude the columns from coming in the future, and it seems that it doesn't. The only other, so I guess I don't have really a problem with our decision from last time. I guess the only concern that I had is our normal limit is $20,000, and only going over the $20,000 if it's bringing the building back to its original state. And I think it isn't if it's precluding the columns from coming. I don't think this is, so I'm okay with that. And I think it was pretty clear from this commission, and even looking at the cost of what it takes to restore the columns, ask us for 60. I mean, we basically said at the last meeting, we have the ability to go beyond the 20, go beyond the 40 if we think as a commission that it warrants that. And quite honestly, this could, because it is so significant to the downtown, this building. And so I think I would hope that you would take the opportunity. Well, obviously you've looked into it a little bit, but I think that discussion should continue, because I think that this commission might actually consider awarding greater amount of money to this project after this first phase is done, if we know that it's possible to bring those columns back. I'm speaking for myself, but I know there's other people on here on this commission that probably feel similar to that. This is, it's one of the most significant buildings left downtown. Those columns are probably the most significant structural element of any of the buildings that existed downtown from this time period. So I think, in looking at all the other projects that could come forward for downtown in the effort of restoring the historic character of our downtown, this is one of the bigger projects that we've been waiting to see happen.
Totally agree with you. I mean, it's an 80 oil building. He's a very significant architect in the area. It's a bridgehead project. As you come off the bridge, your face is there. It's going to be a gateway to the elevator. I mean, it's really a significant building. And
so really the only reason I thought we were talking about this tonight is because I was kind of getting the feeling that you were moving forward with no interest at all in doing anything with the columns in the future, and we were just going to be seeing the proposal that was shown to us last time. I think that's probably why there was this, wait, what's going on? Because there is such an interest in this building. But I'm comfortable with what I've heard tonight.
I would still love to see, just like Rocky said, if beat up on the potential contractor that could build the columns.
I didn't say that.
No, I'd say that. I'll take blame for that. Don't
You want him on the agenda?
I'm not the politically correct one. So, but try to pull together a deal that makes it advantageous for us to come back with some extra money. Okay, this is work hard, walk the extra mile, so that we want this to be set the example. Set the example of historic restoration in downtown, and then we have a place to point to for all further opportunities that come before us.
Well, you're getting a lot of head nods here, too.
Yeah. Well, when we walked away from the first meeting, we understood that the commission didn't want us to invest a lot of money into the marquee and bringing the storefront at Edward Jones out, so that's why we left it out in the minor site plan design review.
Right.
In hopes that someday the columns can come back.
Yeah.
So we're looking at making another proposal once this is complete, and talk about bringing them back. We also have phase 2. Phase 1 just wraps the corner, and then we have that the rest of the building that needs to be done
Right.
on the retail level also.
Yeah.
So that needs to be done, and then bring back the columns.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see
We love these kinds of partners,
Yeah.
actually.
It's, the whole thing is like what they're saying. This is important. This really is important. So the desire is that we do everything we can to be partner with you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
No, I meant to withdraw. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I guess we'll move on to agenda item 5, consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Roth,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Mom,
Aye.
Commissioner Neely,
Yes.
Commissioner Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Yates, Commissioner Edgar,
Yes.
Chair Walters.
Yes. And I meant to do this at the beginning of the meeting. I wanted to introduce a new face for us. Eric Underwood. I know probably everybody else has met him before, but welcome, and we look forward to working with you. Do you want to say anything?
I look forward to it as well.
City manager report?
You want to introduce him now?
Well, I would like to thank all of you, though, for participating in the recruitment and for not scaring away all of our applicants. We appreciate that very much. We're glad to
We
have.
tried.
So I'm going to be out of town from December 15th to the 28th, maybe even to the 1st. And I want to let the commission know that Tony Conkle will be the acting city manager during that first week, and Scott will be the acting city manager in the second week.
We intend to call you on the cell every day.
I was afraid of that. I'll be out of the country in a place where I don't think I'll have cell service, actually. Also, I think, Nancy, did you want to mention that we have received applications for a position on the Urban Renewal Commission, and give them a little information about that process?
Certainly. This is just a very brief report on the status of the application and the interview process for the upcoming vacancy on the Urban Renewal Commission. The city has received 5 applications from residents of the Park Place Neighborhood Association. And the association's steering committee has submitted 3 names, and 2 other applicants were received from the association, residents in the area as well. The position will be vacant on December 31st, and interviews can take place after that. So we were thinking that since the January 4th City Commission meeting is very light, that staff is recommending that the commission conduct the interviews, the City Commission would conduct the interviews that evening and then potentially make the appointment that night if they're so moved. So unless the commission has any objections or comments, where you will be moving forward with that.
I have one comment to make, and that is, under the Park Place neighborhood bylaws, only the steering committee has the authority to make those nominations, so I'm wondering how that's going to get resolved.
Okay, Mayor Neely?
Well, I'm speaking on behalf of the City Commission. We're not so restricted on our bylaws in the City Commission, and we have 5 applicants. I think we've had applicants before that were necessarily recommended by a neighborhood association. So I'm assuming we have 5 applicants.
It is the neighborhood association that makes the recommendations to the City Commission.
Yep.
It doesn't restrict.
Yeah.
We don't
It's
have a
restricted.
restriction
Yeah.
that you have within your bylaws.
Okay.
I mean, we can check our bylaws to see what they say, but
The bylaws actually state that the Park Place Neighborhood Association shall nominate a minimum of 3 candidates for the City Commission consideration and appointment, but it doesn't actually state that no others could apply.
Yeah.
nor does it say it's either the association or the steering committee. I mean, from my standpoint, since these have come from the association in one form or another, I think
I
they
guess it's
fall in
okay
place.
for you to enforce the bylaws at sometimes and other times not, so that's okay.
So, well, I mean, we can make that decision at a City Commission meeting. We could probably even make it this time, but
Yeah, it's okay. I'm just glad to know.
Well, I'm going to offer something here. I think those bylaws are for the association, and they could have been, if the commission wanted to restrict its applications to fit those, it could do that, or the commission could say we just want somebody from that neighborhood, or they don't have any restrictions right now other than
I think anything goes.
It's in the-
I think we should have probably opened it up to anybody in that neighborhood. You know, I mean,
Absolutely.
if you think about it.
Absolutely.
And probably Park Place neighborhood has no business being involved if the city's commission's not going to be restrictive.
No, I don't think that's true. I'm just saying
So where do you draw the line?
Well, from my personal standpoint, we got recommendations from the Park Place Neighborhood Association for five positions. My understanding, of course, I wasn't there, but I did make an inquiry from staff that the Park Place Neighborhood Association put forward 2 candidates that were voted on affirmatively. There were no nays. There were no
Okay, well,
abstentions.
The Park Place General Meeting does not have the authority for Park Place to do that.
Well, no, but I don't think did anybody bring it up
Yes, it's been brought up
in that meeting.
Yes, it was brought up in that meeting. It was brought up in subsequent meetings.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that, it's interesting that City Commission chooses to enforce certain elements of the bylaws and not others.
Well, I'm saying those are your bylaws, but we can have this debate
Yeah.
at the Monday. I'm going to have the first session in the City Commission meeting. I mean, if the commission doesn't want to accept 2 of them, they can make that decision there.
Yep.
Yeah, well, okay, just wanted to know.
All I have.
That's all we have.
Anything else? I noticed you passed out this proposed process for agendas items. I've updated it, and I can send it to you, people. I'll send it around to everybody. It's just slightly revised for clarification.
Okay, we're done.
We have
You have it?
One more
No,
thing?
future agenda items. I didn't know if you were, I thought you were going to gavel. I'm sorry.
I think I got an email from Commissioner Paul Edgar, and I think it's come up before. I think more than you have brought it forward, but to give some real focus, perhaps spending a meeting looking at the north end of the Main Street area, and I think this is really important. I think all of us have agreed to, in terms of especially mixed use, it's probably one of the best areas in our Main Street where this could occur, and to have some kind of focused effort on our part in terms of what we can do.
Nancy, don't we have that on the agenda already for work session for urban renewal?
Scheduled for, I can tell you in a second. It's actually, oh, that's a different one. It's on for January.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Meeting adjourned.